So this is everything that Moose and I carried for a 3-day off-grid winter trip, and why going ultralight doesn't have to mean going unprepared. I trusted a tiny mountain cabin for warmth, packed almost no water, brought no stove, and somehow this still makes sense. Let me show you how. When going ultralight in the winter, it's a different thing. You're still working to cut weight, but it's a different game out here. Every gram that you leave behind has to be replaced by skill, planning, and confidence in your environment. This is everything that I carried for our 3-day trip out to an off-grid cabin. Of course, staying in the cabin and having access to that, even though it has no services, that allowed me to cut some gear, right? So I was able to cut my tent, my sleeping pad, which allowed me to make some room for other weight. As you guys hear me say all the time, ultralight's not about being the most minimalist out on the trail. It's about carrying what matters and carrying what you need, but still being light enough to where you make the trip more enjoyable. So let's get started and go through everything that I've got. So you guys saw us hiking in, so you know that I brought in my snowshoes. Now, after coming in, I realized I probably could have left these behind, but in preparation for the trip, I called the ranger's office yesterday in order to ask them about the trail to see kind of, what the snow load was like. And I knew we hadn't gotten a ton of snow for this season so far, not as much as we normally have, and especially not as much as it was here last year when I came out. And so I was kind of thinking that I might just go really light and just bring my trail runners. But the ranger said no, that there was enough snow out there that it still was a good bit on the ground. And 2, they're expecting a good snowstorm to come in tomorrow. And so I might end up having to hike out with some pretty decent snow on my 3rd day out for that. So just to be on the safe side, especially when you're going 4 miles out into the mountains, I didn't want to be out here and stuck in nothing but tennis shoes. So I did bring my snowshoes, but I didn't have to put them on coming out. So we'll see whether or not I end up having to put them on coming back in, because these definitely add a good bit of weight to my gear. So these are about 5 pounds, or just over 5 pounds, that gets added to the pack. Now, I was sitting out, without counting water and consumables, food, things like that, I was sitting at around 11.5 pounds base weight before I got everything going. And so now I'm just going to kind of pull everything out and show you what I did. I really got a little nervous about trying to go ultralight on this because I'm a big fan of being prepared, especially when it comes to winter trips and making sure that you've got all of the gear that you need to survive, because you never know what can happen out on the trail. And so I really had to think about what I wanted to cut and what I didn't. So let's just start here with the pack. So you guys have seen this pack before as I've gone through some of my other gear selections, but this is the Outdoor Vitals Shadowlight 60. To me, this is a really great ultralight pack. It's not the lightest pack that I own, but it's pretty close. It's just under 2 pounds. And this pack did really well. Counting my snowshoes, my camera gear, and all my food and water, because as you guys will see in one of my other videos, I went pretty all out with my food on this trip. And so I had a good bit of weight for that. And so total pack weight, I think I was just under 30 pounds. And this wore that really, really well. Even though, these ultralight packs, they have thinner shoulder straps and thinner waist straps, I really didn't feel any discomfort when hiking in with this pack. So I've always said that 35 pounds, is kind of the max on this. I think you probably could take it to 40 if you really wanted to push it, but I don't know that I would. I typically during the summer have my total pack weight sitting around 20 to 25 pounds with a base weight somewhere around, hovering around 10 pounds. Sometimes with my ultralight bougie, setup that you guys have seen that video on. I think I set a base weight around 12 pounds. But really good pack, and it did really well at hiking in on a winter trip like this. So then let's take out a few things here. So I did bring in a little bit of water here. And so normally, I don't normally hike in with Nalgenes much anymore these days, because a Nalgene without the water weighs more than just a smart water bottle that carries the same amount of water. But the reason why I brought the Nalgene on this trip was because it's one of my favorite things to take for winter trips, for a couple reasons. One, I can take and put hot water in this thing and easily seal it up really well, and then sit this in my sleeping bag or on my quilt, and man, does it keep that thing warm throughout the night. And it also give me some water, and keep the water from freezing if I'm out tenting in the winter. But for this trip in particular, I knew I was going to be, when I got out to the cabin, I wasn't sure how much snow was going to be out here. And so I knew I was going to have two choices for water. One choice was if I got lucky and there was snow around, which we come to find out there was, but I was going to be melting a lot of snow for water, which whenever I do that, it takes a long time to melt snow into water. But I like to just sit the pot on the stove and just let it melt down, and I'll keep adding snow to it so that I can continue to melt out water. But one of the things that you get when you're melting snow like that is you get a lot of trash and other things in the water. And so I like to really take my buff and then use my buff as a filter, and I will just take and put the buff over the top. And because this is a wide mouth, I can then turn and pour water into this in order to filter out any of that trash that gets in the snow. And so this is just so much easier to deal with when you're out winter camping. And so that's the reason why I brought the extra weight of the Nalgene, because the mouth on the smart water bottles is not nearly as big and not easy as to deal with. Let's see. So as I mentioned, water. I also did bring my Katadyn BeFree water filter, because the other option that I was going to have for water, if I got out here and there wasn't snow, because I thought that might be a chance, is that there are a couple ponds here close by to this remote cabin. And so I knew that even if they were iced over, so that I could take and bust over some of the ice, and that would be, if I didn't have snow to melt, then I would have the lake to be able to go and get some water from. But, as normal, when you're dealing with water like that, my options would have been, of course, I could have boiled it on the stove and just been able to deal with it that way and help deal with any of the bacteria and stuff in it. But the other thing was to just have a filter. And this thing's just so lightweight, I didn't mind bringing it, knowing that it might not get used. Let's see what else we got in our pockets while we're going here on the outside. My first aid kit. As you guys know, I never leave home without my first aid kit. That's something that's always taken on every trip that we go on. So no matter how lightweight I'm trying to get, I never leave it out. Let's see. On this side, we've got toothbrush, some toothpaste. Got a light that I carry. You guys have probably seen me, you've seen me talk about this before, but I typically, the reason why I don't carry a headlamp is because I have a light on my watch. I have the Phoenix 7X solar, and I love this thing because it gets so much charge that it can go for 20 plus days on charge, which means then I can use this light. And I use that pretty much for everything that I do. The only thing that I don't use it for is because it can be a pain if I'm trying to read or do something like that. And so I don't want to have to take it off and hold it or whatever so that I can have the light shining. And so then I get this little bitty light that I can easily just clip on my hat or on something that I have so that it can be pointing in the direction of what I need. So it's just a minor light that I like to carry to make sure that I've got some extra light. And then for this trip, I brought something special too, which I normally don't carry. And that's a butane lighter, because I knew I was going to be dealing with my stove and being able to start wood fires a good bit and often. And so just to make sure that I had something a little bit easier to do than, say, flint and steel or matches, I brought the butane lighter. All right, let's see. We got our front pockets here. Let's see what we got in here. Oh, I've got my micro towel. This is just a really lightweight towel that I like to carry out, so it helps me with, especially in snow. A lot of times Moose loves to just run through the snow and have a blast, and then he'll be wet towards the end of the day. And so if I want him to be dry, as we start to go to bed, I can use that to dry him off. Or, too, I've even, can wash it up and use it to dry dishes or other things towards the end of the trip when I'm wanting to get ready to leave. Let's see here. And then we got my buff. As you guys know, I carry this thing everywhere. I think every pack should always have a buff in it. For this trip, I'll probably use it more so as a pillowcase than anything else, but I could also use it as a washcloth or other things too as well. I've got my brush. This is just kind of a small brush that I carry. As you guys know, I've got long hair, and there's nothing that can make things less fun than having knotty, hair and stuff for the trip. So it's something that I don't mind carrying the weight of. And then I've got my titanium long handle spoon. Let's see, I think that's everything in this pocket. Here I've got my toiletry kit. So this has just got a Deuces trowel in it, some toilet paper, and some hand sanitizer. Hey, get in. Come over here. We don't need Vanna White. Come on. There you go. You can sit with me. There you go. But this is really just meant for, the 4-mile walk in. I knew that the cabin here that I was going to be staying at had a outhouse. Though primitive, it was still going to give me services for a bathroom for the 3 days. But this was just, you never know. You don't want to be caught on trail needing to go to the bathroom and not have some way to do that. So, all right. So I think that's everything. I had some trail snacks in the front pockets, but I ate those on the hike in. So now let's dig into the pack. So let's start off with the first thing here, which is our food bag. This is a pretty hefty, a good bit of weight that we have in our food bag, because as I mentioned earlier, I like bringing some healthier and fattier meals when it comes to winter camping. You want to be able to take in a lot of those extra calories, and having those ultralight backpacking meals is not always necessarily what I want when it comes to a winter trip. I want something that's a little more hearty and a little bit more holds to you and adds a lot more energy for you to be able to help keep you warm and other things for that. And so to be able to see a lot of the food that we brought in there, you can check out the full trip video where we go through the whole weekend, and you get to see all the yummy, amazing things that we brought to cook for that. Let's see. So as I mentioned, not having the tent, that allowed me to bring some extras. So this here is one of my favorite hats. This thing keeps me so warm when it gets really cold out, or especially if it's snowing. So because I knew that the winter storm was going to be coming in tomorrow, and that I might even be having to hike out in a storm, I brought this as something to wear extra. Today, after hiking for quite a bit, it would be a little much for me. It's made with rabbit fur, and so, oh my God, it's just so warm. I just love this thing. It's one of my favorite hats to have for winter camping, and it doesn't really weigh too much for that. But for now, because we've been trudging along and hiking a good bit today, my little beanie works fine for just keeping my ears warm. All right, let's see. Next, we've got another little fun surprise for myself. I brought myself in a nice, juicy, hazy IPA to enjoy later on with dinner tonight. So that's a little bit of extra weight. I only brought the one. Unfortunately, I probably should have brought more than one, knowing I was going to be out for 3 days. But you know what? That's fine. It gives me something to enjoy. And by only bringing the one, you know, I did try to lighten my load a little bit. Let's see here. Next, at the top, as always, so this is a hard shell that I brought. This is a Marmot Gore-Tex hard shell that I have. I really like this out layer. This does really well. I'll show you guys later on in another video how to layer for winter, but this helps me not only if it's snowing, be able to keep the snow from getting things, because as of right now, I mean, I got back to camp, as you guys saw, I hiked in and I just had my fleece layer on because once you're moving, you're warming up a lot, and you really don't need a lot of layers because you don't want to sweat a lot during the winter, because that's really bad for you. But once I got to camp, I wanted to be a little bit warmer, and so I threw my puffy on in order to keep me warm while I'm sitting and just kind of not moving around. But this, paired with the fleece, paired with that, is like all I really need for winter conditions. It will keep me super, super warm when I'm out. And so, but we'll go through some of the clothing aspects of how to layer on another video. Next in here, I've got my pillow. I knew that from camping here last year that there would be a pad in the cabin. They have a couple bunk beds that and just a kind of cheapo pad that they put on there, but I knew I was going to want some form of pillow to be able to do things. So I just brought my air pillow, which I'll pair with my buff, and that'll give me a nice comfortable thing to sleep on for tonight. Next here, I have one of my winter knives. I typically don't bring a big knife when I'm backpacking during the summer, because a lot of times when the summer, I end up doing a lot more of the dehydrated meals and other things like that, or just eating cold food and things. And I really don't need a knife a lot for some of that. And so, but for this trip, I added the extra knife because I love this thing. This is a super awesome knife. This is a Beaver Craft knife that I've got. But it works really, really well to be able to, cut up some of the meats and other things and stuff that I brought to be able to cook on the stove. And so really like that thing. And then worst case, if I needed to, I can also use this to split firewood, help get me some kindling and other things, and pair it with kind of an axe or a hatchet to be able to do that as well. And so I also knew that the Forest Service cabin here had some axes and other things too for that. So let's see. I've got my flute. This is one of my fun travel flutes that I have. So if you guys check out the full video of the full camping weekend, you'll get to see me playing the flute a little bit. But I just love this. It just really helps me get my mind right and reset and stuff. So I love having something like this to do. But this one's made out of bamboo that I have. It's a B-flat flute, but it's made in the Native American style, and I just love being able to have that thing when I'm out in the middle of nowhere like this. Let's see. The one everybody's going to give me a hard time about is a chair. I probably could have left this one home. I really did not need to bring this if I was really trying to go ultralight, but because I knew I had a little bit of extra weight that I could do because of not having a tent and a sleeping pad, I just decided, because I've only recently, this is the new Nemo Moonlite chair, and I really love this thing so far. I've not always been a big fan of backpacking chairs, but this one I actually really like. And I've only had it for a little while now, and I've only taken it out a few times. And so I just thought, hey, let's take it out. This will be a great time to test it with some of the snow. One of the things you guys know is if you saw my chair video where I reviewed a bunch of different backpacking chairs, was this one, the actual pack here that holds it together actually serves as a stand to be able to put the chair on, which, you know, should in theory help me be able to sit on places like snow and stuff. So I wanted to test this because I might actually use this some when I do some hot tent camping and other things too, when I know that I'm going to be stuck in a tent for really long nights because of how early it gets dark in the winter here. So definitely something else there I brought. Let's see here. I've got some of my Yaktrax. These are just spikes that I use. I probably should have wore them in because one of the things I noticed on the hike in today was you could see where, so during the winter, the Forest Service closes off the road to have access to this remote cabin. And so you have to hike in 4 miles to get in. But you could tell, because we haven't had a lot of snow this winter, that the Forest Service team probably came out to service this cabin a few weeks ago. But those snow tracks from their vehicles had iced over. So it's been long enough since the snow had came that those tracks really got a little icy. And so when I was trying to walk on the packed down tire tracks there, I would slip a lot. And so I probably I should have had these on, but I packed them in my bag, which was a good mistake, was putting them where you can't have access to them. I should have put them in one of the outside pockets, and I would have been more likely to put them on. But I have a feeling I will be, if I'm not hiking with the snowshoes on the way out, I'll at least be hiking with those. So that's definitely some extra weight, but it's always something that I enjoy. And then too, tomorrow, Moose and I are going to get, and we're going to start, we're going to explore a little bit, and so I might actually wear them when we're running around to see. Let's see what else we got in here. So I always, as you guys know, and you hear me talk about, I always have at least one pair of extra socks and one pair of extra underwear to make sure that I always have dry socks and underwear. That really helps with being able to stay warm. And then too, I have a old pair of gloves here. I haven't really had to wear them much when I'm active. I don't normally have to have something on my hands, and it's not super cold this weekend. It's only going to get down to the lows of the 20s, and then I think we're looking at highs of around 40 each day. So I just brought these as just in case because I didn't want my hands to be cold. All right, and I think we're down to the last thing in my pack, which is my quilt. So even though I'm staying in the remote cabin, which has the wood-burning fire pit or the wood-burning stove to be able to heat the unit, I still brought my 15-degree Outdoor Vitals quilt because, you know, normally when you're dealing with a wood-burning stove, it's not as simple as just turning on the heater and having it heat the cabin. Like, you got to actually split a lot of firewood. That thing goes through a lot of firewood each day and each night. And then two, it's only going to burn when you load up that stove. It's only going to burn for about 2 to 3 hours max before it dies out. And so throughout the night, your choices of staying warm are either one or two things. You either have to set an alarm and wake up every 2 to 3 hours and re-stoke the fire and put more firewood in the stove in order to keep it warming and keeping it going all night long. Or you can choose, like I've done sometimes, where if I just don't want to have to wake up and I just want to try to get a really good uninterrupted sleep, then what you'll do is you'll pack the stove full right before you go to bed, and then just know that in like 3 hours it's going to die down and the heat's going to die out, and you're going to end up with waking up to a cold cabin, because these things are very old cabin. They're not really insulated, And so it loses temperature really fast. And so there have been times where I may go to bed and it's 70 degrees and nice and cozy, and you wake up and it's 30, you know, or even below freezing in the cabin by the time you actually wake up in the morning. And so until you can get another fire going and get the place warmed back up, which takes a little while to warm these little cabins, you want something warm that you can be in. So I brought my 15 degree just for that reason, to be able to make sure that I stayed good and warm throughout the night. So that's it for my stuff. I'll show you real quick for those of you that are interested. You know, you saw Moose hiking in with his backpack, so he always carries his own load as well as we go out, especially during the winter, because he has to carry a little bit of extra stuff too. So in here, we've got a little collapsible bowl for him to be able to put his food and water and stuff in. We've got some food, and there should be food on both sides here. I try to distribute the weight pretty evenly for him so that the pack rides really well. As you can see from some of the videos, it doesn't stop him from running all over the place. But we've got a couple days worth of food to be able to get him through. And then we've got some poop bags, just because I always carry some of those. He gets to have his own down sleeping bag. This thing's just a little bitty pad that I can take and put on the pad or on the floor right there next to me, so that he can sleep next to me, but have his own little layer to keep him warm from the cold floor. And then I normally carry and toss a little bitty extra, just empty 1 liter pouch here for water in case I need to ever be able to carry extra water for him or any of that stuff. So that just stays in there all the time for that. But that's it. This here is the Mountain Smith K9 pack that we have, and we've found that this works really, really well for him. He as much as he loves to just run free without it, he doesn't mind having it on either. I would love to say that it slows him down a little bit, but it doesn't. He still goes trudging through the forest and running through everything, and becomes the little wild man on trail when we're out there. So, but it allows him to carry a little bit of weight in. It doesn't weigh that much. Typically, I think we look at around 3-4 pounds max is what I would ever try to put in it. I didn't weigh this one, so I don't know exactly what it weighed before this trip came in, but this isn't even the heaviest loadout that he's had on a trip before. So, but that's it. That's all of his stuff and all of my stuff. I definitely noticed a difference coming in. Last year I did this same trip and I really didn't know what to expect, what they had at the cabin. So I brought a lot of extra gear and went heavy on making sure that I was prepared, with a lot of things that I didn't necessarily need. My pack weighed in at probably around 45 to 50 pounds or so last year. And then I was even pulling a sled behind me that had at least another 25, if not more pounds, in the sled. And I definitely felt that on the trip last year. Now, granted, also the trip last year had a lot more snow, and we got like 6 inches of fresh powder before the trip. And so having to break trail with all of that extra weight made for a lot more difficult of a trip in. Whereas today, it wasn't really that bad. Like I said, the pack really didn't weigh that much. And I trudged in pretty easily, made it here in good record time, and, didn't feel tired at all. Didn't even take a break along the way like I normally would have. Last year, I think we even stopped midway and ate lunch just so that I could rest. So going lighter weight definitely made a huge difference. It allowed me, to get further out and to make the trip a little bit easier on what we had. But now, is this the same kind of ultralight as you see in the summer, in how we go minimal? No, because, during the winter, you got to be careful with what you leave at home. You don't want to risk, putting yourself in danger. There's too many stories I've seen about hikers who die just, a few miles away from their trucks out on the trail during the winter because they didn't have the right gear. So for me, I really wanted to take this challenge for myself to try to go as lightweight as I could and to see just how ultralight I could get for a winter trip, but also be smart about what I brought. So we're going to be here for the next 3 days testing everything out. So hopefully I don't realize that I forgot anything or that there was anything that I really missed out. But I hope this was useful for you guys, and hopefully you enjoyed seeing what we had and what we brought out here. But feel free to let me know in the comments, what do you take differently than what I did here for your winter trips? Like I said, this is a little bit different from what I would do if I was camping. You know, there's so many different types of winter trips that I do, whether that's hot tent camping, which, you know, tends to be a little bit heavier because those tents and titanium stove of carrying out are a little heavier than if I just go straight on backpacking. But you definitely end up with a little bit more gear in some of those situations on that. So what does your gear setup look like for the winter? And what do you do to get out there? So hope this was helpful. But now it's time to go get some chores done and get the cabin set up and go and enjoy our week. So as always, hopefully I see you guys out on the trail. And stay warm.